The most innocent faces on earth once hid a terrifying power and brutality so great, heaven was forced to erase them from history. You're watching the Forbidden Bible, where the hidden war of angels and demons, the ancient prophecies sealed for the last days, and the forbidden mysteries of Scripture are revealed with cinematic clarity. If you're new here, subscribe and tap the bell icon, because what you're about to discover may change the way you understand heaven, the unseen realm, and your place within it. Tonight's story comes from one of the darkest chapters ever whispered in biblical history. A chapter many churches rarely speak of, yet one preserved in Scripture and in the forbidden pages of the book of Enoch. Before prophets walked the earth, before kings ruled from thrones, angels descended, not in glory, but in rebellion. They were called the Watchers, guardians sent to observe humanity from a distance. Their only rule: observe, never touch, never cross the boundary between spirit and flesh. But over time, everything changed. When the daughters of men passed beneath the sun, laughing, living, loving, something awakened within the angels. An emotion they were never meant to feel: desire. And once that desire took root, obedience began to crumble. Heaven grew distant, earth grew alluring, and the forbidden boundary that had never been crossed was about to be shattered. For centuries, the Watchers obeyed their holy assignment. They watched families build homes, fields planted and harvested, children born beneath open skies. But temptation thrives on proximity. They descended lower, close enough to hear human voices, close enough to share human emotions. Their leader was Semjaza. Upon Mount Hermon, he gathered 200 angels. His warning was clear: if we take human wives, we will be condemned forever. But fear did not stop them. It united them. They formed a pact: if one falls, we fall together. And that night, they did not fall from heaven. They walked away from it. They came to earth, disguised as radiant men, beautiful beyond measure. The daughters of men never suspected the truth. Angels crossed the forbidden boundary, and the fate of the world was sealed. At first, nothing seemed wrong. The newborns looked human, soft faces, calm eyes. But they were far too large. Mothers weakened fast. Midwives whispered in terror. Many women did not survive the deliveries. Human bodies were never meant to carry offspring of such size. Birth chambers were stained with blood. Screams echoed through villages as mothers died, bringing giants into the world. Some women prayed for mercy when labor began, knowing the child they carried might also become their executioner. The children survived, and they grew, not by years, but by moments. What should take a decade took weeks. Toddlers became giants. Their faces stayed angelic, bright eyes, gentle smiles, yet their bodies became mountains. They were worshipped as heroes, then feared as tyrants. Their games crushed animals. Their laughter shook forests. Their footsteps rippled through valleys. Admiration turned into dread, and something beneath their expanding power grew even faster than their bodies. Hunger. Harvests vanished. Herds disappeared. And they were never satisfied. Even the angels began to realize these were not children who would become men. They were creatures becoming monsters. The hunger of the Nephilim never slowed. It only grew. Entire harvests vanished overnight. Granaries emptied in days. Farmers watched entire years of labor disappear in a single morning. The grain planted in spring, harvested in autumn, stored for winter, gone in hours. Herds, meant to feed whole regions, disappeared in a single meal. Villages could not keep up. The land groaned beneath their appetite. The watchers began to understand the terrible truth. The earth could not sustain what they had created. And when the food ended, the Nephilim did not. Desperation twisted into something darker. Hunger turned feral. They began to hunt. At first, people vanished quietly. A shepherd missed. A traveler never returned. A family's voices went silent. Whispers spread from village to village. The giants are taking people, but the Nephilim still looked like children. Massive, yes, but wearing faces of innocence. Their voices sounded gentle, their smiles comforting. They would wave people closer, calling out like lost children seeking help, using innocence as a trap, until it was too late to flee. Terror swept the countryside. Families abandoned their homes. Mothers grabbed children and ran for the hills. Cities locked their gates. But walls could not stop giants. No weapon forged by human hands could wound them. No refuge was safe. Their strides covered miles. Their voices echoed across valleys. Entire towns disappeared. And beneath the angelic faces, something predatory awakened. Even the watchers were horrified. The children they once celebrated had become monsters they could not control. Their rebellion had birthed an extinction event. Humanity cried out to heaven for deliverance, for justice, for survival. And at last, heaven answered. But even as the giants devoured the earth, another evil was unfolding, quieter, more insidious, and far more dangerous to the human soul. While the Nephilim unleashed terror through brute strength, the fallen angels spread an evil even more devastating, knowledge humanity was never meant to possess. These watchers were not just rebels, they were teachers of forbidden things. Leading them was a figure whispered in terror, Azazel. Azazel taught men what metal could become. Before him, tools served life. Plows tilled soil. Blades harvested grain. But Azazel revealed how to reshape iron into swords, spears, shields, and armor. Tools turned into instruments of death. Peaceful farmers became warriors overnight. Brothers who once worked fields side by side now stood opposite one another on battlefields. And violence spread faster than any giant could run. But Azazel's corruption did not stop at weapons. He taught women the secrets of adornment, how to paint eyes, decorate faces, display precious stones, and rare metals to enchant the gaze. Rivalries erupted among women. Beauty became competition. Desire became currency. Men lost discernment, choosing surface allure over spiritual truth. Families fractured. Jealousy overtook devotion. Manipulation replaced sincerity. Vanity was born. Desire deepened. Relationships became masks. Humans learned to manipulate attraction, to control affection, to twist beauty into power. Other watchers offered darker lessons. They taught the casting of spells, using roots and symbols. They revealed the reading of the stars, not to mark seasons and time, but to seek destiny apart from God. They instructed humanity in sorcery, fortune-telling, and spirit manipulation, inviting unseen forces into the human world. What began as curiosity became obsession. What began as knowledge became addiction. What began as fascination became total corruption. Villages once marked by simplicity grew obsessed with status, power, and domination. Pride replaced humility. Obsession replaced faith. Human hearts, once tuned toward their creator, slowly turned inward, worshipping beauty, power, and control. And as humanity drifted further from God, the earth sank deeper into moral darkness. The giants ravaged bodies, but the fallen angels poisoned souls. Heaven now saw the true scale of the rebellion. It was no longer about giants alone. It was about the total corruption of mankind. The corruption had gone too far. Heaven could no longer remain silent. The corruption of earth had reached its breaking point. Human violence raged beyond control. Arcane knowledge distorted every village. Souls, once aligned with God, now bent under vanity, fear, and power. The Watchers had crossed too many boundaries. The Nephilim had consumed too much life, and heaven could no longer remain silent. The throne of God opened in judgment, not with thunder, but with command. 4 archangels were summoned: Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel. They were not sent to debate. They were sent to end the rebellion, each assigned a task that would reshape the fate of earth. Raphael was dispatched to hunt down Azazel, the teacher of forbidden knowledge. In the desert of Dudael, Raphael seized him, bound him in unbreakable chains, and cast him into a jagged abyss where no light reached, to await final judgment. Gabriel received a stranger command. Rather than confront the giants directly, he was ordered to ignite division among them. Gabriel whispered distrust into their minds, turning brother against brother, champion against champion. The mighty Nephilim entered civil war, tearing at each other with the same strength. Once used to terrorize humanity, brother struck brother. Their creators watched in horror as their own children destroyed themselves. Michael was given the heaviest burden. He was commanded to confront Semjaza and all the Watchers, who had taken human wives. One by one, Michael seized the fallen angels and dragged them into the dark valleys under towering mountains. With eternal chains, he bound their immortal forms and buried them beneath the earth, imprisoned until the final day of judgment. And finally, Uriel received a mission of urgency to find the righteous man Noah and warn him of what was coming. The world was about to be cleansed by flood, and Noah was chosen to carry the seed of humanity forward. Uriel descended through the skies until he stood before the farmer of the hills, bearing a message from God: "Build the ark. Judgment is coming." And with those words, the final chapter of the ancient world began. The ark was rising, the chains were tightening, and the world was about to drown. The ark began to rise in the hill country, plank by plank, nailed together under Noah's trembling hands. He had never seen rain, he had never seen a flood, yet he trusted the voice of God. While the world mocked him, the animals began to gather, not by human summons, but by divine command. From forests and valleys, mountains and empty plains, creatures moved toward the ark in silent procession. 2 by 2 they entered, male and female, carrying the fragile seed of a renewed earth. And when the ark was sealed, the sky darkened, thunder rolled, clouds collapsed upon one another, and then the rains began. For 40 days and 40 nights, water poured from the heavens. Springs burst open beneath the crust of the land. Rivers swallowed cities. Valleys vanished under churning waves. Human screams echoed through the rain. Families fled in blind terror, but nowhere remained to hide. The Nephilim felt fear for the first time. Those who once towered over humanity now raced toward high ground, only to watch the waters follow. They climbed mountains, but the waves rose higher. Their immense strength could not fight the flood. Their massive bodies became helpless against the rising tide. One by one, the giants disappeared beneath the waters. The angelic faces that had deceived the world were erased by the judgment they could not escape. And below, the prisons of the earth sealed shut forever, where the bound watchers remained chained, hearing the echoes of a world drowning above them. The waters cleansed more than flesh. They washed away war, sorcery, vanity, and bloodshed. Every forge went silent. Every incantation ceased. Every city was swallowed. And when the waters stilled at last, a single wooden vessel floated upon a planet of death. On that ark were the last humans. Noah and his family, preserved not by strength, but by obedience. The old world was gone. The age of giants ended. And from the silence of the flood, a new chapter of human history waited to be written. But the flood ended the giants, not the consequences of their fall. The flood wiped the world clean. Entire civilizations vanished beneath the waters. The Nephilim were gone. The rebellious watchers were chained. Humanity was reduced to 8 survivors on a wooden ark. A fresh beginning had arrived, or so it seemed. When the waters finally receded, Noah stepped onto a reborn earth. He built an altar. He offered thanks, and God established a covenant, placing the rainbow in the sky, a promise that the world would never again be destroyed by flood. Humanity began to multiply once more. Families spread across new lands. Cities were rebuilt. Nations were born. But the scars of the ancient rebellion never fully vanished. After a tragic moment of family betrayal, Noah pronounced a curse upon his grandson. A curse that shaped the destinies of generations. Through fractured bloodlines and wandering clans, legends of giants slowly reappeared. Scripture records a chilling phrase: the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, long after the flood. Reports of oversized warriors began to spread again. They bore different names: Anakim, Rephaim, Zamzumim, giants who walked among the peoples of Canaan. Men so large that ordinary soldiers called themselves grasshoppers. By comparison, the Israelites would one day face them, kings like Og of Bashan, champions like Goliath of Gath. And every time a pattern repeated itself, giants rose, terror spread, humanity trembled, and faith was tested. Yet again and again, the giants fell, not by human size, not by superior weapons, but by the hand of God. David's stone ended Goliath. Joshua's armies cleared the Anakim. Moses shattered the Rephaim kingdoms. The message remained constant: no giant can stand against the judgment of heaven. The Nephilim story is not merely about strange beings of the past. It is a warning across generations. Pride breeds rebellion. Forbidden knowledge corrupts. Power without humility produces monsters. The giants of every age may change form: tyranny, greed, deception, fear. But the same truth endures. Light will always overcome darkness. The flood ended one generation of giants, but the battle between pride and faith continues in every human heart. And the question remains for each generation: will we follow the path of rebellion or the narrow way of Noah's obedience? Because the outcome has never changed. The giants always fall, and God's justice always stands.